projects, and the other one's slated set for the following project.
Okay, so if I, or no, I guess the person leaving should do this and then this.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting of the Board of Public Utilities for the City of Santa Rosa to order. If we may have a roll call, please.
Chairman Galvin.
Here.
Vice Chair Count. Here. Board Member Arnone.
Here.
Board Member Badenfort. Here. Board Member Dowd.
Here.
Board Member Grable.
Here.
Board Member Watts. Here.
Welcome, everyone. Statements of abstention by board members. Board Member Arnone.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be abstaining on one of the two resolutions that are up for consideration on item 6.1, dealing with conflicts of interest.
Thank you. And I will likewise be abstaining from the resolution that has the conflict. And Board Member Grable, I believe you also are going to be abstaining from that one.
I will be.
Very good. We have no minutes for approval. We are pleased to have with us today former board member Leonard Holt. Leonard, welcome.
Thank you.
We're happy to have you here with us. For those of you that, I think everybody knows Leonard, but Leonard's a registered professional engineer. He has worked extensively in this industry for years and years, particularly with environmental groups, and he has served 3 different terms on our board. He was a board member from 2001 to 2005, from 2006 to 2011, and from 2013 to 2017, serving on a number of our committees, but most notably serving on our Water Conservation Subcommittee throughout his entire tenure with the board. So Leonard, it's been an honor and a privilege to serve with you. We're sorry to see you go, but we wish you much good luck and continued, hopefully, better health. And we have a nice presentation here for you, which I'll give to you in a minute, but I'd like to at least allow the other board members, if they wish, to say a few words. Vice Chair Count.
Leonard, it was a privilege to serve on this board with you. I appreciated the opinions that you had and that they weren't always the same as the rest of the board, and I enjoyed the diversity of what you had to share with all of us. I really will miss seeing you on this board, and I hope that we can remain colleagues even now that you're not on the BPU. Thank you.
Board Member Dowd.
This will be a repeat of those comments, but I want to sincerely thank Leonard for being on the board at the same time I was, and I truly enjoyed your company and your input. Thank you.
Board Member Arnone.
Leonard, I just want to thank you for being a seatmate. You sat next to me for most of the time I was on the board, and I appreciated your expertise in the professions that you brought to this body and the way that you use that expertise for the city's benefit. So thanks for your service to the city, and thanks for answering questions that I had.
Board Member Watts.
Thank you so much for your questions over the, I've been on the board for about 1.5 years now, and I think that every time I had a follow-up question, it was probably based off of something you asked. Maybe check what he has to say, and I think that I learned a lot from you over the last 1.5 years, and I really appreciate your experience and knowledge that you have given to this board, and I think that, not only will you be missed, but I think there will be times when I'll probably wish, I wish that he had asked a specific question that I probably did not think of myself, so thank you.
So Leonard, we have a couple things for you. I have a nice plaque here from the department, and we have your name tag or badge, so be happy to present those to you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. It's nice to hear nice things about yourself as opposed to some of my previous life. I'd like to make a correction. I did not serve in 2001. That must have been when my doppelganger. I served twice, once in 2008 to 2000. And let's see, well, I got it wrong. Anyway, I was first appointed by Veronica Jacoby, and secondly, served a second term with a 2-year interval there. and it was a great pleasure to work on the board. Some familiar faces here, some new ones, and I expect you all to go forward. I think the greatest thing for me was the opportunity for me to take my previous career and continue on to do a little service and perhaps annoy a few people with the Board of Public Utilities. It fit right in, and I continue to do that as a citizen and individual. Thank you very much for the honor of allowing me to serve on the board. Thank you.
Leonard, you're always welcome to come visit us.
And we're
Thanks.
still going to meet on the first and third Thursdays at 1:30, right?
Yes. Thank you all for your comments. We'll move on to the consent calendar. Item 5.1 is the contract award for grit and screening disposal services.
I move to approve item 5.1.
I'll second.
Motion by Vice Chair Cowan, seconded by Board Member Arnone to approve item 5.1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.1 is the wastewater funds and budgets. And Deputy Director Reed, welcome.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Galvin, members of the board. I'm glad to be here. We are having two presentations on the budget, and one is they follow slightly different paths after they leave the board in your recommendation. So this first one is just Santa Rosa's share of costs for both the water and the wastewater enterprise funds. And of course, we always like to start out with our mission because this is what those rates ensure, the budgets ensure, the expenditures ensure. It's protecting public health by sustaining water resources, infrastructure, and the environment. And it's a pretty extensive system that we are passing our expenditures and our budget on. As you can see, we have a lot of hills, we have a lot of reservoirs, a lot of pipe and infrastructure, high-quality drinking water, fire flow, and we operate this system 24/7. Overall, the 2017-18 proposed water expenditures are just over $50 million. And as you can see, the two largest expenditures are purchase of water and capital improvement program. Looks like that got cut off. That's 26% of our expenditures there, 32% for purchase of water. So really providing water and maintaining that system are the biggest costs involved. On the wastewater side, you can see that the vast majority of this is for the subregional system, our Santa Rosa's share of our water reuse debt and our water reuse operations and capital costs. And then the rest of that, the big share again, is the capital improvement program. So the major drivers here, of course, include debt service. And in order to, we went over each of these funds and the expenditures that were involved in them in pretty great detail in study session at the last session. So I'm not going to go over the individual pieces of the budget, just to say that these are the expenditures that were proposed and that were covered in study session. And the other side of expenditures, of course, are revenues. Are our revenues going to be sufficient to meet the expenditures that we project? And for us, of course, that's mostly dependent on sales. And so we have two graphs, one that shows water usage over time. And you can see for a number of years, water usage bounced around at about the same level, plunged pretty deeply, and then grew for a couple of years. We thought maybe it would be going back. It did not. It plunged further. So we're going to be making assumptions that that water use is going to stay low. And on the wastewater side, about the same. It didn't plunge the same. Wastewater use is a little less elastic than water use. We are seeing a slight uptick in winter water use, which sets the sewer cap for 2017. So what we are going to make a recommendation is that we base our revenue assumptions on flat water use and a slight uptick in wastewater use based on the sewer cap that will go into place in July. And that said, in each year we look and see, do we have revenues that will meet our expenditures? We do not this year. We are operating at a deficit in both funds. So we do intend to use reserve balances, and those are the levels of fund balance that are above our target reserve levels. And it's important to remember that in those 2 years where water use went up, we saved that money. We have a fair amount of excess fund balance right now, but we have to be really careful in expending that. So we use that to offset expected fluctuations in water use. We want to make sure that we spend it down gradually over time, or to use for one-time or extraordinary costs. And over the next year, we'll be working out different scenarios where we look at different long-term projections and some of the needs of the system. So we'll look at the long-range water financial plan in graphic formula. And in this one, the part that we're typically focusing on at this place is our target reserves and our actual reserve projection. And at this time last year, we showed that target reserve being met in 2018-19. And so that's been pushed out a little bit based on the upturn in water use. It is a little bit more flexible, and we have some time to figure out if water use is going to continue down at this level or if it's going to increase a little bit more. So we've got time to figure that out. And then on the wastewater side, we've created a projection where we show two scenarios. The one with the target or the ending fund balance with the longer dashed red line is more akin to the slide that you saw last year when we looked at the wastewater fund. And the one with the smaller dashes would be a scenario where we have more aggressive spending, especially on the subregional system where we've got some needs. So we will be looking at that as we move forward through this coming budget year and coming up with exactly how we're going to deal with that and what the responses will be. Of course, the bottom line for our ratepayers is what the council authorized as far as a rate increase. In December 15, they authorized a 5-year rate plan. And this slide has a typo. It has last year's actual. So the actual 17 pass-through will average 2.2%. And then the 5% water fixed charge, a 3% increase in both sewer fixed in usage. And combined, I'll show you a picture in 2 slides that shows what average residential bill will be up about 2.8%. Before then, I just wanted to point out the wholesale pass-through rate. As you recall, when we went through the rate plan last year, or in 2015, it affects different segments of water differently depending on the source of water that is being used. So usage rates will go up anywhere between 1.9% and 2.2%, but an average of 2.2 for most of our customers. And then the average bill, if we look at an average use of 4.6 thousand gallons in summer and winter, and an additional summer use of 3,000 gallons, bill would go up about $4 per month for our average customer. And with that is recommended by water staff, and that you recommend the City Council approve the water fund, local wastewater fund, maintenance and capital expenditure appropriations. And as Chairman Galvin pointed out earlier, there are 2 resolutions, one that excludes the CIP projects that are within 500 feet of an individual board member's owned property, and one that has all the other projects so that you can vote on them in 2 different segments. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I'm going to turn the meeting over to Vice Chair Cowan to handle the discussion, any questions, and the ultimate resolutions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? If not, oh,
I'm sorry. If you looked at the wastewater side and the big piece that's debt, it's about 30-something% of the whole budget, 36. And that was driven by a cease and desist order that came from the North Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board back in about 1985. The project, which you're all familiar with, was that was selected and built was the Geysers Pipeline at a cost of about $225 million. And the point for bringing it up is that was forced upon our ratepayers and our customers for valid reason. There was a raw sewage spill in the winter of 1984-85, which led to that cease and desist order. But as the Budget Review Subcommittee has been working on this issue, we're trying to build up at our cash funding of some of the projects that we can. What we don't have control over is the next hammer that might come down from the North Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board because of new regulations or something else. So we're always susceptible to that, which is the point that I'm trying to make. But I think collectively we need to try to reduce our debt proportion of that budget as we can, so that we use those dollars not for financing, but we use it for the projects that this community needs.
thank you. Are there any members of the Budget Subcommittee that have any comments to make on this before we vote on it? If not, I will. But
I'll just comment that there was a very thorough presentation made by staff at multiple meetings. I think I lost count. And what I liked about those meetings is that it was an iterative process where questions would be asked, comments would be made, and at the next meeting we would see adjustments or responses or creative ideas on how to handle the questions raised. So I think the end result is a very efficient, lean, but appropriately funded budget, and I think that a great deal of credit goes to the staff for producing that. So, thanks.
thank you, and I'll also mirror those sentiments as a member of the Budget Subcommittee. You know, I really feel comfortable with the process that we use here, and having 3 board members sit with staff for 3+ meetings and look over all the numbers, and then bring that information to the full board. I think that the story that the staff told us is a very compelling one. I think that the budget's prudent, and I think that it balances very well the need to keep bills down and the need to make sure that all of our infrastructure is improved properly. So with that, I can entertain a motion. And the first motion, can you remind me, the first motion will be without conflict of interest?
So there are 2 resolutions. We can take the one that has with the conflicts in first, if you want.
Okay.
We'll approve those 3 items that are identified in that first resolution. I believe they read the same in title, but they would be including the 3 projects, so then our 3 members who have been identified as having a conflict would need to abstain.
Okay. I can't either. You can.
I'll move to
Thank you.
approve the resolution with the conflicts of interest, recommending that the Board of Public Utilities recommend to the City Council to approve the proposed fiscal year 2017-2018 budget.
I'll second.
Go ahead.
Moved by Board Member Watts, seconded by Board Member Badenford. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And 3 abstentions.
Abstain.
Abstained, thank you. Okay, and then the resolution without the conflict of interest.
I would move that resolution.
I will second.
Moved by Board Member Dowd, seconded by Board Member Arnone. All those in favor?
Aye.
And no abstention, or no abstaining. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on now to item 6.2, which is approval of the preliminary 2017-18 regional budget.
Thank you. Again, this is for the sub-regional system, and as you know, there's an extra bullet on this slide as well. We don't know where theater came from. We don't have a new partner that we're aware of. Sorry about that. It is a very extensive system, and I'm sure it encompasses a number of theaters, from the Terminal Reservoir down through Cotati. So the reason this one comes to you separately is that it does have a TAC recommendation to the BPU, which they made unanimously this morning, and then it will be going to council as a preliminary approval on April 18th, so that we are able to notify the partners of their allocation and costs so that they can include them in their budgets for the coming year. And we need to do that before May 1st. So it's on a slightly different track than the other budgets. And of course, the operating expenditures ensure not only the repair and replacement of the physical things in the ground and the treatment processes, of course, but also the soft costs, such as our NPDES permit and our air quality monitoring and things like that. And then, as opposed to the last presentation where we just showed Santa Rosa's share of the regional budget, this is the entire regional water use budget that is divided between all 5 partners. And as you can see, debt service is 37%, our O&M is 56%, and we are increasing the cash-funded CIP at a partner agreed-upon rate of $1 million a year. So that is increasing each year until we get to somewhere in the $12 to $13 million a year range. And that would help satisfy Board Member Dowd's request that we move away from debt financing and move more towards the cash financing. Overall, the budget is going up somewhat substantially. The operations and maintenance request is up about 9%. The CIP, again, as I said, increases $1 million a year. And so that combined flow allocation is up almost 14%. The debt service allocation appears to be up, but it was down significantly in the prior year, so it is still down from normal type of expenditures. But because the debt service was down in 16-17, we did collect money above our operating expenses from each of the partners last year in order to build up a balance, knowing that it was going to return to closer to normal. So we do have a proposed allocation, and we are using some of the funds that we collected to offset that, so that for most of our partners, the rate is going up 5%, which fits their financial plans. And then in Santa Rosa, it just appears to be up larger because we didn't set that aside, money aside separately. It fell back into our fund balance, and now we're pulling it back out. We do have some funds still available for the future year, but we will be talking to the sub-regional partners in the coming year about what the needs of the sub-regional system are, the regional water reuse system, and how we will be funding that. And again, the slide where we compare what it would look like if we increase and aggressively fund some more projects out at the regional water reuse system. And then it's just a recommendation that by both staff and the Technical Advisory Committee that you recommend this budget to the City Council, that they recommend the preliminary budget for the purposes of notifying the partners. And then, of course, Council will have an opportunity in May at their study session and in June in their public hearing to make any further revisions. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Board member comments or questions? Hearing none, we have a resolution.
I move to recommend that the Santa Rosa City Council approve the preliminary fiscal year 2017-18 regional water reuse system operating capital and debt service budget and the proposed operations and debt service allocation of costs.
I'll second.
Motion by Vice Chair Cowan, seconded by Board Member Watts to approve item 6.2. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.3, water supply update. And actually, before you go, Deputy Director Reed, thank you so much for all the hard work you and your staff, I know, and the Budget Subcommittee. You guys did a yeoman's job.
Thank you. I think we do the budget subcommittee as well.
Okay, good afternoon, Chairman Galvin and members of the board. So we have a quick water supply update for you today. Currently, Lake Mendocino is at 84,818 acre feet, which is approximately 104% of the target water supply curve, and the 24-hour average release is 82 cubic feet per second. I will note that based on Board Member Dowd's suggestion, I had talked to the Sonoma County Water Agency about possibly looking at displaying the information related to Lake Pillsbury differently, and it looks like they actually did take us up on that suggestion, because when I looked at it today, it said that Lake Pillsbury is at 68,385 acre feet, which is 91.2% of the current water supply capacity, which is 74,993 acre feet. In the past, you might have remembered that numbers in that range would have said it was about 74% capacity. So thank you for that suggestion, and the Water Agency made that change. In terms of the 24-hour average release from Lake Pillsbury, it is currently, the 24-hour average release is 1,132 cubic feet per second, and the Potter Valley project diversion is at 44 cubic feet per second. In terms of Lake Sonoma is currently at 247,238 acre feet, which is 100.9% of the water supply pool, and the 24-hour average release is currently at 775 cubic feet per second. Did just want to update the board on the results of the RFQ that we put out to try and get some additional plumbers to participate in our direct install program. So as the board may recall, the water department was awarded a $2.5 million grant to install up to 5,500 toilet packages. Through the program and through cost efficiencies from the current plumber that's been doing the program, we were able to identify that we could install up to 750 more toilets for a total of 6,250 toilet packages. So we had put out an RFQ to try and get some additional local plumbers to participate and concentrate on trying to really reach out to single-family residential. And we had two respond, and they are going through the mandatory meeting actually today, and that is Southwest Environmental and Roto-Rooter. So they're both very excited to be joining the program, and we'll be getting their information up very shortly, and then folks will be able to choose any of those plumbers to install the toilet packages if they're interested in participating. In terms of outreach, again, we always just like to take any opportunity to remind about the events that we have coming up. So yesterday, we had water use efficiency staff participate at the Career Day at the Santa Rosa JC. It was a great event with a lot of young adults attending, or teenagers, whatever you want to call them. And we were there to really give them information about careers in water use efficiency, but also promote information about the programs and services we have and how they can be efficient. Again, we have our Earth Day event coming up on April 22nd, and you will get a formal presentation on that at your next board meeting. And then we will be participating in the Cinco de Mayo event in the Roseland area on May 5th. And we have our big Water Smart Expo coming up at the end of May, which we're really always very excited about. And then last, you all received a postcard we wanted to let you know that the Eco-Friendly Garden Tour is coming up, and this is something that we participate in and partner with the Sonoma-Marin Saving Water Partnership, as well as the Sonoma County Water Agency on promoting this event. It's a free event. It's usually well attended with quite a few hundred, if not thousands, attending throughout the day. There will be a number of gardens throughout Sonoma County and in North Marin service area participating. It is free to attend, and all that's asked is that you register ahead of time if you're interested in participating, and you can go to the Saving Water Partnership website to register. So, and again, you have postcards in front of you, and we'd encourage you all to participate if you're interested. And that is all I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Deputy Director Burke? Vice Chair Cowan?
So, we all want to know, have we beat the average yet?
Oh,
Or not the average,
Darn it.
the record.
The rainfall record,
Yes.
I was like, I should probably check that because someone's going to ask me.
Check it.
And I don't have the answer. I'm sorry. I
But
should have
soon,
checked it.
right? This weekend?
I mean, if the rainfall comes as anticipated, this should be the new record year. So we're right there. We're
All right.
so close.
I'm watching.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just to add on to that, if and when you find out that, would you send us all a broadcast email?
Yes, I will. We were actually thinking that we should have like some kind of little party back at the
Yeah.
office or something.
We've got huge money bet on this thing.
Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Next item is public comments on non-agenda items. Seeing no one rise. We have no referrals. Any subcommittee reports? Vice Chair Cowan?
The Landscape Subcommittee will meet not next week, but the week after on Tuesday. I'm not sure what day of the week that is, at the sub-regional plant.
And the Contract Review Subcommittee's also got a meeting scheduled. I appreciate all of you being flexible. I know you all received the memo with the new assignments. If anybody has any issues with where I've placed you, feel free to talk to me. Otherwise, I think we're in good shape going forward. All of our committees are going to be doing lots of good work. So,
I do have a comment.
Board Member Dowd?
It's not directly the responsibility of the Budget Review Committee, but it was a recommendation that we made a few years ago about each of us meeting with the city council member that appointed us to this board. And I know mine is scheduled. I hope everybody else is getting theirs on their calendar. It's really an important element for the city council members to recognize that we as a board are fully supportive of the recommendation that's coming forward to the city council. And historically, there's been a faith from the city council that we have done that work. So it's very, very helpful to go through that process for those city council members.
You just stole my next comment.
Oh, sorry.
That's quite all right. Any board member reports? Okay, we'll turn to our director, Mr. Hornstein.
Do have a few informational items I'll run through here. The first is as a result of proactive outreach from staff to representatives from the state and regional water quality control boards that, as most of you know, oversee our NPDS program at our main plant in our collection system. We had an informational and instructional demonstration last month where staff provided an educational opportunity to our regulators designed to not only showcase our work and best management practices, and they do seem best management in my view, but also suggesting they could be a regional resource providing training to the state and other perhaps smaller municipalities. And it seemed to be a success and real engagement of our regulators and of course building bridges for times when we need those bridges. So kudos to staff that set that up and managed that. The next item is this month we'll be putting our Farmers Lane wells into production. As many of you know, the groundwater augments the water supply that we receive from Sonoma County Water Agency during the warmer weather months. The groundwater is sent into our Farmer Lane well treatment plant, which removes iron, manganese, and sulfides from the groundwater. And in preparation for this work, there was quite a bit of, which happens on an annual cyclical basis as we bring these wells and the treatment plant up to speed. A couple major projects were done replacing some anthracite coal that is used in the treatment process, as well as some valving that was done with in-house staff, and everything seems to be in good working shape and ready to go. Also wanted to note, and you've heard about this initiative, asset management continues to work on assessing the short list of vendors to bring on our new asset management system that we're doing as a department, but in partnership citywide. So to support the city's efforts as well to have a state-of-the-art asset management system, which, as you know, is so critical to effective maintenance and investment in infrastructure over time. We had 3 permit excursions in March that we wanted to share. The first was a short 15-minute period of under disinfection when one of our redundant UV banks that we use for disinfection suffered a failure, resulted in about 89,000 gallons of under disinfected effluent from the channel going out, the total of about 267,000 gallons. We took immediate action and have a fix in terms of some instrumentation that didn't kick on as was designed. We did the appropriate reporting, and we'll probably we'll report back on any action that the regulators take. The second and the third were associated with air permits. The first one was digester gas was inadvertently released into the atmosphere for about 5 hours. It had to do with maintenance activities, and the triggering of a flare did not occur as it was supposed to, and when we found that, we did it manually. And the second was during monthly compliance emission testing, one of our engines exceeded our nitrogen oxide limit, and both of those were reported in accordance with requirements. I've talked with, to share Deputy Director Miller about setting up on a routine basis, perhaps semi-annually, presentations and discussions with the board on the broad regulatory context of where we are in terms of looking back over the last year, exceedances and trends, and how those may align with our capital programs going forward and enhancing operational practices, and also looking at emerging regulations that may be out there. So we'll probably begin that process in the next month or so. That concludes my comments.
Any questions for the director? Thank you for the report. With that, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you.